Imagine a vast desert landscape, quiet and golden under the early morning sun. A lone traveler stands at the edge of the horizon, his robe tugged gently by the wind, his eyes fixed on a future he cannot yet see. This man is Abraham, one of the most influential figures in human history, a man whose faith reshaped generations and whose story continues to inspire millions today. Abraham appears in the Bible as a wanderer, a leader, a father, and most importantly, a person willing to trust God even when the path ahead made no sense. His journey is not only about miles traveled across ancient lands, but about the growth of a heart, learning to believe, to obey, and to hope. Whether you know him as Father Abraham, the ancestor of Israel, or simply as a man seeking purpose, his life offers a powerful reminder of what it means to walk forward with faith. Today, we're stepping into his story, exploring the moments that shaped him, the promises that carried him, and the decisions that defined a nation. This is the animated journey of Abraham, a man called to leave everything behind in pursuit of a promise greater than himself. The call of God. Abraham's story truly begins when God speaks into the ordinary rhythm of his life. He was living in Haran with his family, settled and established, when an unexpected command changed everything. God told him to leave his country, his relatives, and the comfort of everything familiar. The message was bold, direct, and mysterious. Go to the land that I will show you. No map, no timeline, no clear explanation. But with the command came a promise, one that would reshape the world. God declared that Abraham would become the father of a great nation, that his descendants would be as countless as the stars, and that through him, all the families of the earth would be blessed. Imagine hearing such a promise, standing in the dust of a small settlement with no children of your own and no clear path ahead. It was an invitation into a journey completely dependent on trust. And Abraham responded. He gathered his possessions, his servants, and his family, including his wife Sarah and his nephew Lot. Leaving behind everything he once knew, he stepped out toward the destination God would reveal step by step. His journey began not with certainty, but with obedience, one faithful step at a time. The journey into the unknown. Abraham's path carried him through rugged hills, wide deserts, and ancient kingdoms, lands filled with unfamiliar languages, customs, and dangers. Each mile was a reminder that he was no longer walking by sight, but by faith. He built altars as he traveled, simple stone markers reminding him and everyone after him that God was guiding his steps. These were not monuments to his own courage, but symbols of trust in the one who had called him. As he arrived in the land of Canaan, God appeared to him again and confirmed the promise. This land would one day belong to his descendants. It must have been overwhelming to stand in a foreign place, surrounded by people who didn't know him, and hear that this strange land would be home to generations yet to be born. Yet Abraham believed. He continued to travel across the land, pitching tents, raising altars, and learning what it meant to walk faithfully, even when the promise felt far away. But the journey wasn't without difficulty. A severe famine struck Canaan, forcing Abraham and Sarah to move temporarily to Egypt. This moment revealed Abraham's humanity, his fear, his uncertainty, and his struggle to navigate life's challenges. Yet even in the setbacks, the journal teaches us that God's plans don't disappear because of difficulty. Abraham's story moves forward, shaped not by perfection, but by persistence. The promise challenged. Even as Abraham continued following God's direction, the promise of a child remained unfulfilled. Years passed. Abraham and Sarah grew older, far older than anyone would expect parents to be. The promise of countless descendants felt impossible. Every sunrise without a child must have weighed on their hearts, testing their trust and stretching their faith to its limits. In their struggle, they made decisions driven by impatience and fear. Sarah encouraged Abraham to have a child with Hagar, her Egyptian servant, believing this might be the only way to see God's promise come to life. The plan brought tension, conflict, and heartache, the very things that happen when we try to force outcomes instead of waiting for the right time. Yet even in the confusion, God did not abandon his promise or his people. Then, in a moment both tender and astonishing, God spoke again. He reminded Abraham that the promise still stood and would be fulfilled through Sarah, whose laughter at the idea revealed just how unbelievable it felt. But God's response was gentle and powerful. Is anything too hard for the Lord? With those words, the story shifted. This wasn't just about Abraham's faith anymore. It was about God's faithfulness.
The birth of Isaac. At long last, after decades of waiting, hoping, doubting, and believing, the promise took on flesh and breath. Sarah, whose laughter once came from disbelief, now laughed with joy as she held her newborn son in her arms. They named him Isaac, meaning laughter, a reminder of the incredible, almost unbelievable faithfulness of God. The child was more than a blessing. He was a living symbol that God keeps his word even when circumstances look impossible. For Abraham, every moment with Isaac must have felt like a miracle. He watched the boy grow, play, and explore the world with wonder. Isaac was the future, the link between the promise spoken under the stars and the countless generations yet to come. And through him, Abraham's story shifted once again, from waiting on the promise to raising the promise. Yet even in this season of joy, Abraham's journey wasn't over. Faith is not a single step, but a lifetime of trusting. And soon he would face the greatest test of all, one that would reveal the depth of his belief and the unwavering character of God. The greatest test. The moment came when God asked Abraham to do something that shook the very core of his heart, to take Isaac, the child of promise, the miracle he had waited a lifetime for, and offer him as a sacrifice. The command was impossible to understand. It confronted every instinct of love, every hope for the future, and every memory of God's promise. Yet Abraham rose early the next morning, gathered wood, and began the quiet, painful walk toward Mount Moriah. Along the journey, Isaac asked the question no parent could bear: where is the lamb for the sacrifice? Abraham's reply held more faith than explanation. God will provide. Step after step, Abraham climbed with his son beside him, holding on to the hope that somehow, in some way, God would remain faithful even in this unthinkable moment. At the top of the mountain, as Abraham raised the knife in absolute obedience, God intervened. A voice called out, stopping him. A ram appeared caught in a thicket, a divine provision just as Abraham had declared. Isaac was spared. The test ended not in loss, but in revelation. Abraham's faith was real, and God's promises would not fail. The place was named "The Lord Will Provide," a truth that echoed through generations. Legacy of a life of faith. In the years that followed, Abraham continued to walk in trust, watching Isaac grow and seeing God's promises take shape. His life was not perfect, nor was it free from challenges, mistakes, or moments of fear. Yet what set Abraham apart was his willingness to keep moving forward with God, even when he didn't have all the answers. His friendship with God, his obedience, and his steady belief shaped the identity of an entire nation. When Abraham's life came to an end, he was buried in the land God had promised, a land his descendants would later fully inherit. His story echoed through the generations, carried by prophets, kings, and families who traced their faith back to the quiet obedience of one man who dared to believe. Today, Abraham is remembered as the father of nations, a pillar of faith, and a model of what it means to trust God with every step. His journey reminds us that faith is not about perfection, it's about perseverance. It's about taking one step at a time, trusting in God's promises and believing that He is faithful even when circumstances seem impossible. Abraham's life invites us to ask a simple question: what might God be calling us to say yes to today? Abraham's story is a journey of courage, trust, and discovering what it means to walk with God even when the path is unclear. From the first call to leave his home, to the joy of Isaac's birth, to the trials that shaped his character, his life shows that faith is not a single moment. It's a lifetime of learning to depend on God's promises. Thank you so much for watching this animated overview. If this story inspired you or helped you understand Abraham's journey in a deeper way, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who loves Bible stories, and subscribe for more beautiful animated explorations of Scripture. There are many more stories ahead, so stay tuned.